Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Level Up Cleveland. This week we have with us the Easterlys. That's right. I have with me Father Ken Easterly.
Hello.
I have son Wes Easterly, and the other brother for Wes is Kenny, who has actually been on the show before. Mentioned with the Angered episode. He was the drummer for the Angered. Also, Rochambeau a couple weeks ago. He was actually in the studio with us. Thanks for coming back, Kenny. Thanks for coming down. The whole clan.
Glad to be
here.
Super
cool.
The whole family.
Yeah. Just to give a couple of little highlights of how this all kind of came about was, when I first actually heard of you, Kenny, which was years ago now, down here basically, I was stumped by the fact that was your name because I had already known of who your dad was through the fact that he was in Purgatory. And when Purgatory came out, that's how I was introduced to metal, was through that was also the time Metallica started getting big. Slayer, all the thrash was starting to get big. And Cleveland kind of had their big four, kind of a big five. And it was basically Auburn Records. It was Bill Peters, and he had signed some of these local bands, and at that time it was a killer scene, man, you know. But I had remembered your name through that whole thing. So when I heard that, I was like, he's not playing with these kids, you know what I mean? Like he can't be.
No way.
And then I got to know Kenny a little bit, and we were having a conversation, and it was Pat, I think, had actually said, hey, you know, I heard that there's a third brother or a second brother, a third Easterly, and he plays drums too. So we were talking, I think we were talking with like DJ or one of them guys, and they're like, no, he's fucking really good, you know. He's like them, you know, he's just another great drummer, you know.
Imagine that.
And I think it was Pat was like, let's get all three of them on and do like the whole thing, you know, and what the hell, why not? I mean, like, the thing about our show is, like, if we're going to do a thing where we're trying to, like, highlight Cleveland and all that kind of thing, I think you guys, you're the name. Honestly, I think you guys are a big name into what's actually come through here the last 10, 15, 20 years, starting with you.
That's flattering.
But it's true. I mean, you can't go ahead and tell the story without bringing you guys into this. And you guys are up and coming, and you guys have already got a nice resume of things that you've already done, and you've still got a whole bunch of stuff left in front of you to do. So that's why I just want to introduce everything and see how this kind of came about. I think this is going to be a really cool conversation. Yes. Born in Cleveland? So you always been in Cleveland?
Yes.
When did you start how's the drum thing begin for you? When did you start picking up the drums, and how does that all happen?
My brother-in-law played, and you know, when he was dating my sister, and he bought a drum set over to the house, and then he went into the Marines. So I just set up his little Remo drum kit and pretty much destroyed it.
So you taught yourself, basically?
Pretty much, yes. I never really took lessons. So
what were you listening to like, what kind of stuff were you playing?
Oh, my God. I was young. I mean, like Jackson 5, Elvis Presley, just, you know, started on stuff like that. And then just, you know, then converted rather quickly into like Led Zeppelin, Rush, Aerosmith, you know, even like Artful Dodger, just, stuff.
So you got heavier, things started getting a little more rocking. And bottom line, if you're going to get better at drums, you start finding the great drummers like Bonham and stuff like that.
Yeah, Bonham was definitely my favorite.
For sure, huh?
I really tried to clone Pert, which I couldn't, you know what I mean? That was like a waste of 10 years.
not everybody.
And the same with Bonham, but there's still, you know, I don't know.
Well, I guess the thing is like, you're kind of a part of a thing that happened before there was anything really before it. So like, there was heavy metal.
Sure.
But you guys kind of, at that point, it had gone to that next level that now people don't, you know, take it for granted. It's been 20 some years, 30 years almost since that's over 30 years.
Yes.
Since that's happened. But at that time, you know, there was Judas Priest, there was Maiden, they were out and stuff, and Metallica had just come out. That stuff was just starting to get popular. And you guys kind of fell into that category of metal. I mean, that's what it was. It was a harder, faster, heavier
Yeah.
version of all that
I
other
always thought if we could have just stuck it out just another, we were together 6 years. And if we could have just held together maybe another 4 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That something could have, you know what I mean? Maybe could have escalated a little more.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
not that we did bad, and I'm grateful, you know.
Yeah.
But just to make that next, like, like something like a Slayer, where you're going anywhere you go, you're gonna sell 1,000, 2,000 seats, and they did that consistently for so long.
Oh yeah.
That's admirable.
Well, you guys came out with a killer debut album too. That Tied to the Tracks thing was big in Cleveland. It was huge. Everybody here had that album, man, and it was a good album. It was solid.
Yes, it was. I thought it was kind of almost. Yeah, I mean, it's still. You could tell it's kind of dated, but not terribly. You can still put it on and be like.
And you can pull it up off YouTube. They got it up on YouTube. You can listen to the whole album on YouTube. That's cool.
Dude, when I did later, after that split up, and I was a Mystic for a few years, and we got to go to Germany, and there was like people showing up at the gigs over there with Purgatory albums.
And you were signing those in stores and stuff?
Yeah, they were like...
Yeah, we had Ed on from...
They're into it big time.
Sunless Sky. He talked a lot about Mystic and stuff like that. So so after Purgatory, that's what you did. You joined Mystic. Now
that's what I did back at that time. What you did, and this young people need to know this. I feel, you know what I mean. We practiced 4 days a week. That was, we're gonna get better. We're gonna be good. We're gonna take over the world.
Right.
That's your attitude. You're 20 years old, but it's like we did that, and then the Purgatory thing, kind of dwindled down. We could talk about that, but there's a lot there. And then Pat and Roy from Mystic, they came and approached me with their tape, and I mean, I had been out of the band like 3 weeks, and I was looking forward to just not doing nothing for a minute.
Oh, really?
And 3 weeks later, and they brought me this, and they were, and I listened to it, and I was like, man, I didn't want to pass on it,
Now, did they give
as much as I wanted to take a break and set back, and I'm like, fuck.
It was too good type thing. Yeah. It was like, wow, this is really good shit.
It was just, I liked it. It was, we toured with Paul Di'Anno, Battlezone.
That's right.
Which was, it was enjoyable. I actually like him more than Dickinson. I do. That's just my preference.
The original.
Dickinson's awesome, but I just don't care for the vibrato. But that's personal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Better is an opinion. So
well, Hatrix had kind of a vibrato thing when he sang, though. He
had a little more of a
scream. Yeah, he was a screamer. He was a screamer.
Pterodactyl.
So after.
Jeff knows I love him. I can say whatever I want about him.
So let me ask you a little bit about that. So then after Mystic, well, it was after Mystic when Mushroom Head formed, right? So Mushroom Head formed after Mystic.
It was kind of actually almost like during. Like
simultaneously?
Mystic, we were like right down the hall when that whole thing started in the old Level 5 on Detroit Avenue.
Did you know the Sekulas and all them guys too? Like Brian and John and all them guys?
John and Brian knew for
that's
forever. Joe was in Mystic. Calvin dropped out right before we signed. Who was in Chemical?
Yeah.
Red-haired fella. But he dropped out right before, the band got signed to that Massacre deal and was able to go to Germany. And, and I was able to get a hold of Joe, and we had something to offer him. So he came on board. And then they started Mushroom Head right after that, which when Mushroom Head started, everybody was, that was like, Mushroom Head was their second band.
Yeah, right. So that was like a bunch of dudes who get together from all the other bands, form this thing, and then it becomes bigger than all the other bands. Basically,
we were right. Like I said, we were the first room from that where their studio was. We were the first room to the right, and so Joe was in with us at the time. Which Kilcoyne was the original bass player from Mushroom Head when they started, and then his brother took over.
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes that guy, he's just do something for a year or two and just
move on.
Yeah. And it didn't matter that, what was going on. He just didn't feel it no more, which is good. You follow your heart, not, what I mean, not your pocketbook.
Let me ask you something. Back in them days, it seems like there was a lot of that going on where it was more of a pool of musicians, like this big pool that all kind of knew each other and everybody kind of got along. And then factions of bands would form and then new bands would form and then things. And it was interchangeable.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Today, Do you feel like that's still kind of in place? Do you feel like there's a giant pool of musicians? Because it wasn't unlimited back then. There was a limit. There was a certain group of dudes who were doing all this. And do you feel like that's still kind of in play now? Do you guys feel like you could say that happens more, like where there's a large group of musicians and this kind of faction of bands and stuff,
like a revolving door kind of?
Yeah, where like for bands are forming and unforming and that's
camaraderie.
Yeah, is it? Do you feel that, or do you think it's not as much like that?
Yeah, I think it's still there, or at least from like what I've experienced, it's like a just like big community of people, and usually everybody's
pretty cool with each other.
Cool with each other, and people
promotional.
And people are supportive and playing in each other's bands and all that stuff, So I don't know. I guess I wasn't around back then, but I feel like it's probably similar.
I think it like what you're talking about is true, and I feel like I almost watched it turn into that, because we started about 84. And it wasn't like that camaraderie wasn't there. It's kind of like, that scene was coming up and it developed out of that scene.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning stages of it, you know what I mean? You couldn't be in two bands. You didn't do that. You're devoted to one band.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
And then little by little.
You don't say another band's better than you. You know what I mean? There was none of that going on.
And I also wonder too, because it also at that time there was these guys, you included, the level of musicianship had skyrocketed.
Right.
Also, Terror was the band that came out. That was the Seculas. Craig Martini played in Terror.
Terror, yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean these guys are some of the most elite of the musicians. That was the scene that they were all in the beginning, especially back then in the late 80s and stuff like that, and early 90s when this was all happening. And so, yeah, you guys, all of a sudden, you guys start meeting each other. You're like, wow, this fucker can play. You know what I mean?
John Secula, bless his soul, he tried out for Mystic, before Mushroom Head was big. And it was like, when I remember back on it, he had this Marshall and he's playing, but his amp is just, and it was just like, and I'm like, fuck this guy, dude. I can't deal with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey,
that's part of growing up, man.
When this is coming out, when you guys are first coming out, do you feel like you're starting something though? Did you guys feel that way? I mean, because I felt that way. I felt like at that time that it was a new scene that was starting to emerge. Did you guys kind of feel that way, or did you guys was it just like a ride that you were on and you were just?
I think it was more like a ride. I didn't really feel like that new thing, you know what I mean? Because the rock thing had been already going from the 60s and 70s, and now we're in the 80s,
right?
But I did feel that commercial music in the 80s was really piss poor, and that made it easy for us.
Yeah, right. That's true.
But it was like, it was a great time to come up, and sometimes with these two, and it was like back at that time you could play on a Wednesday night and 150 people were going to be there.
Yeah, right. It was different. Yeah, it was different. It was a huge live scene.
It was like I said, it was a great time to grow up and experience.
So at some point you guys find out, my dad played in these bands, da-da-da-da. You guys were probably pretty young at the time, right? When you guys were realizing all this.
Yeah.
Glad my dad don't suck.
My dad don't suck.
Yeah, I don't know. I started playing when I was like 10, and so it was probably around then that I was paying more attention and realized like, oh, my dad's kind of a badass. Or whatever,
Well, I mean, kind of, yeah, right.
But no, yeah. So yeah, it was probably around then I started learning more about the shit you had done and Purgatory and all that stuff.
The history.
I
guess. But I mean, so it's not a coincidence you guys play drums, right? I mean, would you say that's true? It's not as if the fact that your father played drums definitely has to have some kind of an influence on why you picked up the drums, right? Would that be a safe assumption?
Yep.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What motivates you to become a badass? Both you guys. I mean, seriously, you guys. I haven't seen you play. I did. I did watch it. I did watch a video of you play, and I've seen Kenny play. And I'm telling you, you guys fucking are badasses. How do you get there? How do you? Why? Why? It's more so not how, but why? What pushes you to become that?
I think Kenny pushed him. He decided he was going to play drums, and it's like he had, that was to sit and watch his brother play and know how good he was. It was like, and then decided to do that. You know what I mean? I think that's a drive right there. You gotta be as
kind
good
of
as
like
your brother.
the shoes to fill kind of thing,
So you're
Like-
the older
like-
brother, Kenny? Okay.
Yeah, I remember before I started playing, I became aware that they were really good at playing the drums,
Yeah.
And then eventually I did start getting more into music, and then I started tapping around on, their drums that were set up at the house, probably without asking, just going.
That's how he learned.
Yeah, and I don't know, and it is just like an art, you want to just get better at it. It's just fun. You want to play the best you can play and like give people a good show, I guess, when you play live,
So you just don't want to be disappointing. You don't want to suck, right? You don't want you just want to make sure that when you go out there, you can hold your own and do.
You want to be proud after you play, and like your ability to play, I guess.
Is there a big age gap between you two?
8 years.
Oh, it is 8 years.
8.5 or something like that.
We have a daughter in the middle.
Oh, and a girl too. She played drums too? No.
She doesn't. People are always asking her.
Yeah, well, it's
giving her
obvious,
a hard
right? Of
time
course.
about that, but she does. I've seen her just mess around. Like she'll sometimes sit down on the drums, just playing along to a song. We're out hanging out, drinking and stuff.
Can she do it? Can she hold a beat?
She can hold 4 on the floor.
She's got natural rhythm. She really does. So I mean, she could. She still could if she wanted to.
She did play music in school and stuff. She did like violin and piano.
Mm-hmm.
Which was weird. The violin, it wasn't like the squeaks. It was like she's like almost
She was really
like
playing it.
natural, like right out the gate. You know what I mean? It just sounded like it's supposed to, not nothing virtuoso or nothing. But
No, I heard what you're saying because a lot of kids can. Yeah, yeah. You've heard some kids play.
None of that going on. But Wesley's also does engineering too. He's produced a lot of music.
Oh, really? You started doing? You got into that also?
He's got the ear.
Yeah, I got into messing around with audio stuff probably around when I was 15, and it's always just been a hobby thing for fun. I don't really feel like I excel at it really, but it's just fun to do.
So you just got the programs at home and stuff to record with?
I do.
He's good at
this
it.
point. I do have a pretty solid setup, for a home studio. And it's always just been nice to have that stuff around, playing in bands, and we can just record ourselves. And
Right, especially since you're the drummer.
Yeah.
It's nice to have everything set up at the drummer's house. So there's a lot less setup involved each time.
Yeah, and
He did a couple of Kenny's CDs. I mean, they sound good.
yeah, Toro
Blanco.
Toro Blanco.
He did the first album the whole way through from mixing and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of stemmed too also from we would have some like live sound equipment laying around at the house, and I don't know, it was some of your stuff, I think, and I was just like grabbing microphones I could find and messing around with that stuff, and then long story short, eventually one day these buddies I was playing with, they're sorry if I sound a little weird sometimes. I have aligners on my teeth. But, my buddy's mom bought this 8-track mixer that was really good, and nobody wanted to figure out how to use it, and eventually I did, and then that's just kind of really when I actually took interest in it as a hobby,
So you guys, do you have a lot of stuff that's laying around though in this studio? I mean, do you have guitars, basses, everything represented? Could anybody just show up and play something? I mean, basically.
Yeah. At this point, yeah, have a decent amount of stuff, a couple drum kits and just all sorts of stuff.
It was like that. It was like that growing up too.
Yeah,
like, at the house we had the spot out back with everything in it. Full PA set up, all the amps and everything. Mm-hmm. Two drum kits at least at any point.
That's awesome. What I want to talk about is the fact that you guys are 3 drummers. you guys, there's a house in Medina that you guys reside in. Used to, at least, all of you guys. And I'm wondering what that would be like for the neighbors to have 3 drummers living by them. Like, I would think, and you're just describing, it's not just the drums that you guys have, but you guys have the full band set up, basically.
Dirt bikes.
Dirt bikes. So it's like noise. It's like noise palace, basically, right? You guys can create a lot of noise from there if you want to.
We've been there 27 years. We're on our 5th neighbor.
That's how you judge the situation. How many neighbors have you gone through?
Yeah. One of them was really cool. He just had his own house built. That's why he moved. I wish he would have stayed there. He was the good one.
So it is like that. That's the situation that you're in. Where
John and Sheila.
Yep.
That was the good one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just the drums, but you guys. Let's just say you guys have some people out there and stuff. Did you guys ever have a situation where you're like, hey, you play guitar, you play bass? I mean, I know you know how to play bass and stuff too. And how about you? Do you know how to play other instruments besides the drum? Or is
no,
a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. It's really just drums.
So yeah, but you guys know guitar players probably come out there and stuff like that. Do you guys just ever assemble and just like at any time just fire it up and start jamming?
Oh, it's the rehearsal spot.
And do you still sit down and still jam with these guys and still playing and still hell yeah.
Still kicking a little bit, you know. And I play, some cover stuff and and it's different, original. A lot of people I don't think understand, you know what I mean? People that listen to copy music and people that listen to original music, it's 2 different things. Copy people I don't really care for, but I always liked it for, keep my chops up because I won't sit down and practice.
Yeah. We were just talking about the situation with one of the bands earlier this season where we were talking about the difference between the cover band and the band who writes their own music is, when you're doing a lot of cover songs, it's tricky because you're not playing your own stuff. You're playing other people's music, and sometimes you got to go outside your box in order to. I
was just going to say that, it takes you outside your box, makes you play stuff you wouldn't normally play, like technique and stuff. It can teach you other things, and you can carry that over into your original music. Makes you a better player.
It's how you progress.
That's feet, that's hands.
Is that what it is? Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. I don't play double kick. I just play single pedal.
Yeah, well, you and the band that you're messing with now, if I'm not mistaken, that is the Ola Mesa.
Yeah,
is that one of them?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah.
I was just jamming that last night, and that is some cool shit. That's very jazzy, very. Yeah, but I mean, like what you're doing in there is very cool because you're doing a lot of offbeats, a lot of weird times and weird things that are going on in that stuff.
Yeah,
but you're keeping it right on there, man. It's like boom, perfect. Mm-hmm. Jazzier, kind of fucking smooth style of fucking drum. I don't even know what exactly to say because it sounds like a fusion. It's like a fusion thing, right? I mean,
I'm not even sure.
It's cool though, man. It was super cool stuff, man. I love it.
I just play.
It's fun. Yeah, we've been playing together for a bit, and they're just like good guys. We're all really good friends, and it's just a fun thing. It's mainly instrumental stuff.
And you're just recording everything at your place, and is that where the recordings are all coming out?
Yeah, we have done all the recordings ourselves.
And one thing also I wanted to talk about with you was you were also in a band named McCafferty.
Yeah,
and that was you were in that band for like 6 years. 7 years, somewhere in there, right?
Yeah. I was involved with it from the beginning. It really started as a production thing. The main guy in the band, him and I met over playing video games. We met over Xbox party chat, and then I just started recording his stuff. It was acoustic stuff, and eventually, it turned into a band. My buddy Evan, who I play with now in Sister Sandy, he was actually the first person to join the band. He joined as the drummer. My buddy Chris, who was in both Ola Mesa and Sister Sandy, he was in McCafferty. He played bass. Yeah, eventually McCafferty became a professional thing, semi-professional thing. Like 2016 was when we like turned it up a notch and we like really
started promoting it heavily.
We were gonna go for it, and we were getting label support. We had a really good manager, really good booking agent, and we were putting off work and stuff to like be able to practice and play shows, but it just it inevitably we broke up like the very beginning of 2020. This was like a couple years ago now, but there was a song that went viral. It went pretty viral on TikTok, and TikTok's been doing a lot for like promoting artists and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But there was a song that went pretty viral, and it brought in a lot of attention. So we were getting a lot of traffic on Spotify and the streaming services, but we were already doing pretty well numbers wise before that. But then kind of just got lucky and
boosted it.
It brought in a lot of traffic.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes that one viral video or one viral thing, and it just absolutely can just change the whole entire thing.
Yeah. So when we agreed to do it professionally or semi-professionally, we just finalized the lineup, and we were doing okay when we started. You know, we were making a bit of money, and then we started making. You know, we made a bit more money the next year. Then we were making more money the next
More
year.
gigging? Were you doing this, a lot of this from gigging, or were you getting?
There was money coming in, a decent amount of money coming in from royalties, because a lot of the material that people were listening to was never signed away to a label, so there was no like middleman, and we were just getting
all of it,
the straight money, you know, which was
pure indie.
which helped.
You're just pure indie,
it's just
independent.
an indie band, you know. But we had planned to do a lot of touring. You know, we were supposed to probably be doing like at least 100 shows a year. So nothing crazy, but you know, we were doing okay playing shows. We were making decent money for sure. And we had a really good agent and manager, so we were getting good tour offers. You know, we'd just get the opening slot for a way bigger band. We'd get a couple $100 for playing, and then we would get to play to a lot of people, and we would sell our merch. And
yeah, that's where the money's at now, especially. Yeah.
So we were doing okay. We ended up not playing nearly as much as I wish we would have, but you know, we played around the country a bit, and but yeah, unfortunately, it just, you know, it didn't work out. But if we would have stayed together, you know, yeah, we would be doing.
All right, and Kenny, I want a little bit about you. Because you've been in a number of bands, and then you seem like you're also like the gun for hire kind of guy too, and a lot of projects and stuff. The Angered was one of them, right? I mean, you played drums on that album, but you weren't the drummer of The Angered. Basically, you just played drums on that. You told me, I'll do drums for you on this one, and there's a few things you've done like that, right? I mean,
Crypt Kicker.
Was that a one and done, or did you?
That was a hired gun. I think it turned into a few. It was supposed to be a one. You know what I mean? It was cool. It was a good relationship.
They came out like early on with Mushroom Head and stuff back in the old Peabody's, when it was on Old River Road, you know, in the flats.
Oh yeah.
Yep, exactly. Vulgar Display.
Vulgar Display. I could not think of Vulgar Display. Yep. Yeah, and they were huge at one point.
That was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that.
What happened with that? How come that doesn't? I would think you could ride out a Pantera band tribute band forever.
The one guy in the band, he started going back to school, and between work and school, it was just a lot, you know, for him. So it just kind of slowed down, I guess, and lost momentum.
When it comes to these like tribute bands like that, is it hard to find dudes to like fill these spots for a tribute band to really pull off?
You know what? I can't answer that wholeheartedly, because that's the only tribute band I ever played in that I had experience with.
Right.
But the guitar player, Alan Marcus, looked like Dimebag. He had the same hair. You know, he had the green khaki shorts.
Yeah, he wore the shorts all the time on stage.
With the chucks. He had the identical guitars. I mean, it was just
amazing.
He played the part to a T.
No kidding.
And then myself growing up with Vinnie Paul being like my idol as a kid, you know, obviously first and foremost it was my dad, because he got me into playing drums, you know, but he handed me the Vulgar Display of Power album. I think I was in like first grade, you know, and then that was
Smart.
It from there. Like, damn.
How about you, Wes? What are some of your influences stuff? We haven't really touched on, like, what does Wes listen to? Like, seriously, I mean, like, you're definitely more of an alternative minded. I think, you know, what we're hearing here is hard rock, Zeppelin, metal, metal. You seem to have gone a little different direction.
Definitely.
It's yeah.
Maybe it's that 8 years gap. That has something to do with it.
I really listen to pretty much anything.
What do you like, though?
Lately I've been listening to like a lot of 90s music, kind of. It just fluctuates. I'll just go
90s,
some
like what?
Like the
instrumental
punky
music.
type 90s stuff that was out back in the, or grungy stuff, or
Yeah, I like a lot of grungy stuff. I like
You were into the Blink 182 for a minute, weren't you?
yeah, I was gonna get there.
Good drummer.
But no,
he
it's
is.
I don't know. There's a lot of bands I like. I'll really listen to anything. I don't really.
So do you wait for something to come on, or do you have like a shuffle thing that you'd like to do? Are you a shuffler, or do you?
I usually lately I've ended up like I'll just get into a band for a bit or a couple bands. I'll listen to them for a while or a couple albums or something, and then move on to something else, and it might just be totally random. But yeah, I do like everything, and like when I was younger and started playing with my first group of guys and stuff, it was pretty much just pop punk stuff. We were doing Blink 182 stuff, which is great for me because it just was a great way to learn.
Yeah.
And it was easy enough for the other guys to play.
Right.
So it was a lot of pop punk for those like early teenage years. Then started getting more into some alternative stuff. I had a moment there with one of my best friends, Kane, who we were never in a band together, but he's a really good guitar player, and he's like a blues player, and we were jamming a good bit just for fun. And so he got me more exposed to blues music and playing blues music, which was like really just taught me to dial things back. And it was a good experience. And then almost from there, I started getting into progressive music and more crazy music, and started trying to like get my chops up and stuff. I remember it was I think 2015. I came across this band called Chan, and they're like just a crazy instrumental band. But I came across this video of them playing live, and it was just like unlike anything I had seen. And the drummer at the time was probably 16 or 17, and it was just like crazy. And I was like, shit, I really got to step my game up.
With Kenny, I wanted to talk a little bit about. We've pretty much talked to everybody else about influences and all that stuff, and we've kind of hit on that in the previous episodes and stuff. But what are as you're coming up through this thing? We already talked about Vinnie Paul, and that's really the only one. And there had to be other drummers, especially back in the days when the metal drummer now is huge. So
Nick Menza.
Mustaine,
Yep.
Megadeth.
Yep. Dave Lombardo. That was like the three bands I was listening to as a kid. It was Pantera, Slayer, Megadeth.
What about
Benante?
Benante?
I wasn't so much of a fan. I mean, he had the double bass thing, but wasn't.
Just didn't grab you?
Yeah. And then shortly after that, it was Meshuggah, I think in like 98 or something like that.
Yeah. That band definitely grabbed a lot of people. Man.
Destroy, Erase, Improve, and then it was like I followed them religiously after that. I was like got deep into that. Thomas Hawk, definitely my favorite drummer.
Really?
Going to see them guys actually coming up here in September.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one, man.
And then there was Animals as Leaders. I've heard of the band. I'd never seen them before. And then I saw them at the House of Blues. They opened for Meshuggah. And I was like totally blown away. And that band is just something crazy, man. It almost made Meshuggah sound simple. They came on after that. I was like, shit.
Well, like what would, like at this point in your drumming, like what would you see? What can you see now that you're going to be like, oh shit? Like what are people doing nowadays where you're like,
Matt Garska, the drummer from Animals as Leaders, he's probably one of the best out there right now. He's, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What else? What else? Any other bands? Any other drummers? Lombardo, obviously, like you said.
Chad Smith.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Chili Peppers.
Was I didn't really get like into the Chili Peppers at a young age, but in like the last 10 years, it started really catching on. And it's like damn, how do I get my snare to sound like that?
Well, isn't that how the drums kind of are though? Is because there's so much to be playing the drums that you can pick out this thing from this guy and you can take this thing from this guy. And Bonham has always been synonymous with his sounds. How his drum set sounded. I mean, people always back in them days would talk about that was the sound that everybody wanted.
I think a lot of times what gets overlooked is that besides the sound, it's the attack.
Yeah, because Bonham hit
the
them drums.
drummer.
Yeah, right.
It's where you're hitting it and how you're hitting it.
The mechanics of what you're actually doing makes a difference.
Just because you could play that same drum set and it ain't going to sound like that.
Yeah, because it is like
copy
that
band thing.
Where you hit the drum makes a different sound,
Yep.
and there's and that's part of playing the drums. It's not just about hitting this time at this time or doing that. It's hitting this time, this light, this heavy
dynamics.
And when you guys are watching and listening to other drummers, that's what you guys are hearing, right? Like you guys are hearing all that kind of stuff. You're like, oh, he just did that right there. Where if someone doesn't play the drums would not even know what the hell you're even talking about.
There's so much going on, and you're looking at the drummer and you're just watching what the fuck he's doing, and then you're like, man, I can't just watch this drummer. I got to check out the guitar player, and that lasts about not even 20 seconds, and you're just right back to the drummer. You could say like not even getting off of drums. Take like Keith Richards,
right?
Just example, hypothetical. You could probably give him any guitar that is stay in tune in any amp, and you'll be able to tell it's him.
Yeah, he still sounds like Keith Richards.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, I totally agree with you. Like a great musician is great because you can tell him just by hearing his playing. I mean, you don't have to know it's him or whatever. You just know who he sounds like. And drums is tough, For me, the one drummer always in my mind besides Bonham who has such a distinct sound was Alex Van Halen.
Yes.
Alex Van Halen
overshadowed under.
Yeah, and sounds like Alex Van Halen. Like when you would hear Van Halen tunes, you didn't even need to hear a lot of the stuff. As soon as them drums would start playing, you're like, that's Van Halen.
Yep.
That's who that is,
Yeah, it's like I
agree.
I think Dave Grohl was talking about this, and he was like, what really makes a great drummer is like basically their sound and character as a drummer. It's like when like Ringo Starr, it's like he's never done anything crazy like his playing, but when a record comes on, it's him right away. Like it's him because he just has that characteristic to him.
Sounds like
Same
Ringo.
with like Dave Grohl and like all those guys. You just know it's them, and that's what almost makes them so great.
The greatest ones are the ones that you could always tell Neil Peart when it's a Rush time. You always hear Danny Carey's another one. Danny Carey sounds like Tool sounds a lot like Tool because of that dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
He reminded me of Neil Peart just the way he's effortless.
He would be my favorite drummer outright. Like if I had to say who's mine right now.
Right.
Now that Peart died, because he was my favorite at the time.
That was weird when Peart died. It's like, I hear like Dio. I love Dio. And,
man.
And you just hear about guys like that going down. When Peart went down, I was like, it just hit me differently.
Yeah, and then not long after that, Eddie Van Halen died. The same year, I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. This is
like that. Eddie,
two of my favorites.
Like I'm saying, that was like, but it was weird when Peart died. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because I practiced him so much and tried to emulate him.
Well, as a drummer, I would think, that was the guy for,
it was like a week rather than a day.
Yeah, it took a while to get over that. I think even me, I don't even play the drums. That was some of the worst news, man.
Such a nice guy too, Peart. He's just quiet and like very
intellectual
nice and humble.
Oh man, he was very unique with the internet and everything. There's so many fucking bands for one. I mean, there's just so much. It's flooded with stuff.
It's oversaturated.
Exactly, perfect.
They should do it like cars. You have to have a license and.
You can't just become a band. Did you go through the class?
It is interesting how the industry's changed, over the past 20 years alone, just because of the internet and technology and everything.
It's crazy.
And there's so many bands, and bands flare up, and then they're just easily forgotten about. Nope. It's like it's hard to make a big impact now.
Flavor of the month.
to become legendary, you know.
Well, the radio doesn't have the influence either that it used to have. So you know, they would tell you basically this is what you're going to be listening to for the next.
It was brainwashing.
Kind of, it was right.
It.
Yeah, and without
right.
they don't have that influence anymore. We now have the power.
Everything's independent now.
Yeah,
you know,
that's better.
I kind of think it is, but I do kind of like the idea of having the Led Zeppelins. I do like the Black Sabbath. I think that's also cool.
Definitely.
Like you know, like there was these bands back then that did it. They were the ones. There wasn't
but
a million.
That was also a different time to where you only had 10 bands.
Yeah,
and then the early 70s, and that was just a lot of good bands, and then it started getting more bands, and then it turned into the radio controlling because there was so many to pick and choose from. I started to talk about earlier, but I was younger playing on Fir Avenue. I wasn't even in a band yet. I was just trying to, playing some Michael Jackson, whatever, you know what I mean? People would walk by my house. I played upstairs in the attic.
I can hear you playing.
That's where I was at. All right. And one of my friends come, running upstairs one day, and it's like the cops are out front. So I, stop playing, and I go look out my window, and my neighbor, old West Virginia dude, cool as fuck, dude. He's out there. He's in the cop's face. You leave that. You don't mess with that boy. He plays them drums. He stops when he's supposed to. I mean, it's just awesome, neighbor,
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Sticking up for you and telling you.
Yeah, I didn't even have to go down there, you know what I mean? They left.
You go back to playing the drums.
They left. And then, like I said, the similar thing, you know what I mean? When Kenny played, he played, and we lived on West 98th, and he was playing in the basement. That's where we had it set up. So you could hear the drums, and my ex-wife, like I said, we love each other. We're just not in love anymore. 30 years, 29 of them good. But, she's talking on the phone. It's like 90, 92 maybe, you know what I mean? We had a cordless phone, and she's opening the door to the basement telling him to stop playing so she could talk on the phone. And I'm like, Deb, you're on a cordless phone. Go upstairs.
Go somewhere else.
Don't make him stop playing.
Yeah.
You don't do that. You know what I mean? You just don't do that.
Like, what are you thinking, like, while you're watching the progressions of these guys? So, like, these guys are progressing before your eyes, doing stuff that you kind of already, you've already gone through this road. You're watching them now do it, but you're kind of watching them, in some ways, surpass you even in a way.
Absolutely.
Where they're doing things that you're even like, shit, I didn't
like. Here they come.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, so what do you think now? Like so now I know I'm older. I got my kids. I got grandkids. I got all that stuff, and I look back on things and stuff. How you feel now? Like, would you tell these guys? Like, hey, you know what, you fuckers, like guys.
I mean, I've said it forever. You know what I mean? I'm really blessed to have, both of my kids to play drums the way that they do, and not just that, but be who they are. You know what I mean? And I always tried to tell them, you know what I mean? You play, you know what I mean? Play for you. Don't be expecting something, because it's not. More like
guaranteed. There's nothing.
It's not going to be there.
Yeah, and I from talking to Kenny a few times, I talked to him. He's a kick-ass guy.
Yes.
Just aside from his drum playing, he's super cool. And the little I've known of this guy here, he's a super cool dude.
Similar. He won't even talk unless you talk to him.
Yeah, but it's both intellectual guys, smart as hell.
I mean, that's just like your opinion, man.
It is my opinion, but my opinion's golden. Honestly, I mean, like from your standpoint, I mean, when you're back there in the Mystic days and you're in Germany and stuff, you had no idea that you were about to produce two kids that are going to fucking tear it up on them drums. You know what I mean? And now here you are looking back. It's got to be pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it's got to be, man.
Yeah, I don't know why Kenny was just around it, and when the time that he was born, he was just, I mean, Deb, like I said, my ex, I mean, she was a band girl. She liked live music, so that's a bonus. You know what I mean? I mean, she was coming to see the band when, he was in the womb.
Oh yeah.
And I just wondered, was he feeling that?
Dad's bass drum.
Because he didn't have to. I don't think he didn't have to work at it as hard as Wes and myself.
So, well, that happens, right? I mean, there's some
he's
people
just, he's just more of a natural, and that's believe me, I'm
yeah,
ecstatic about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he technically started when he was 2 or something like that.
Pretty much.
And it was just always available, and I could go play it anytime. And I was just always like magnetic, like drawn to it.
Yeah, he finally met one of my friends that wasn't a drummer. He's like, "You don't play drums? Why? What's the matter with you?"
Yeah, what do you do? And what time? At what time did you decide to pick up the bass too? I mean, did we talk about that before? But
I was probably about 14. Mudvayne had came out with their LD50 album. I think that was their debut, and I just remember the bass being like
so prominent and everything.
Holy shit, that's awesome playing! And I was also had been listening to Primus for a time prior to that, and then there was Flea from the Chili Peppers, so that was all very influential. So I was like, I want to try that.
And he got a couple lessons from who?
Joe Kilcorn.
And the bass can be kind of percussive too, right? I mean, when you're playing that bass, it has a lot of percussive qualities.
And I played with the fingers, and that was one thing that felt natural, was just
plucking
banging
and
on the strings like it was a drum, you know.
Did you take to the bass like you did the drums though, where it became obsessive in a way, where you were So it was always the side thing. It was always the thing.
It was fun to do, and it kind of came a little easier because I had played acoustic guitar when I was like 10 and did a couple of lessons and just learned some basic stuff. So then applying that to the bass, I think it was easier because I didn't have to play chords, and it was just one at a time.
Yeah, right. It's a lot different.
But I'd like to also throw out there that my mom is a singer.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Okay.
And we go watch her now.
Who does she sing for? By herself, or is she?
She's in a band they called Soundcheck, and it's just like 70s. She actually sounds like Stevie Nicks.
Oh, really?
She does Stevie Nicks.
She's
like
really
good. Like fucking good. But I mean, they'll do Heart, and it's like 70s. Copy cover stuff.
Man, dude, we just got to get you to learn like the guitar. Dad plays drums, bass, guitar. Mom sings. Fucking, you're the Partridge Family.
Right on! Bring in the hippie
Cha-ching!
All right, guys, I think that's it, man.
All right.
Awesome time.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thanks for
fun.
coming down, man.
Yeah.
This was cool. This was a great idea, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is going to come out really good.
I hope so.
Cool.
I hope we gave you enough information on how to find the guys and all that, because I can't remember everything we just talked about. There's so much stuff going on, but this was really cool. Easterlys, check them out when you can. Ola Mesa.
Yeah, Ola Mesa.
And Sister Sandy, is that what you said it was?
Yeah, yep.
So when you see them pop up, go check out Wes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who you're in now or what. You're doing so much stuff, dude. I can't.
I actually kind of moved on to audio engineering.
You haven't been playing
And we got this thing called Live from the Warehouse.
Most drummers do.
And
eventually.
so we're doing like live streaming for artists as like another outlet.
And that's over there with the Signal Flow guys, and you got all that. Those guys are all part of that also.
Yes.
Mondo Pino is part of that.
Yep, he's doing the video with Sean Long.
Cool.
It's just getting off the ground right now, but that's mainly what I'm into right now. Nothing band wise.
Yeah, just taking a break from that and getting this thing taken off. This thing could be cool, man. That live from the house thing.
I'm kind of having fun with that, being behind the curtain and running
the show,
doing the knob turning rather than being an entertainer.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, huh? You're still producing something. It's just,
yes,
it's just
still
different.
involved in music, just behind the scenes, I guess.
All right, guys, that's it for us.
Right on.
We're out.
Peace.
Have a good one.
That'll be fine.